Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. We want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I get to speak with Matt Gagnon. Now, Matt here, he's a Go Active coach. He believes in comeback stories, and for the past 15 years, he was basically selling his soul to the corporate lifestyle, missing birthday parties, family events, holidays, you know how it is. And he made a decision to get out of that and create something that would fulfill his life and make him more. It's just like you and I, right? So I'm so thankful. I'm so honored to have Matt here on the podcast. Matt, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, my man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So on the podcast, I love to go into the backstories. I love to hear. I mean, from that little bio I read, it shows me that we a lot of us, we go through the standard schooling, we go through college, and now we're stuck at a desk job or stuck in a life that we thought was going to be the American dream, but it not really is. So tell us a little version of your journey that will get us a little bit of, how it all started for you.
Yeah, pretty simple for me. To bottom line is that, I tried to check off all the boxes growing up and do things right and do things that people told me would make me successful and things that would look successful, like, getting a great paying job. I got a job in retail. I went to college, majored in marketing. I even did an internship with the San Antonio Spurs. And I was on my way. And by 25, there I am, I've got a decent salary. I'm out of college. I've got my first BMW.
Nice.
I feel like hot shit.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm basically living the values that were defined by other people for me. And by the time I reached 30, man, I had really burned out. Because it just wasn't my lifestyle. I was traveling 25 nights a month. And all of these things that I thought were important to me really weren't, like buying nice clothes, going out to eat and owning fancy crap. I thought that's what I wanted in life, but really it's just what other people wanted for me. Or at least that's a story I told myself. And I was miserable. But on the outside, I looked very successful.
Mm-hmm.
I looked like I had it all together. But internally, man, I was just rotten. And I was doing all these things, trying to find my way in life, trying to fill this emptiness, this void. And I was even drinking 15 cans of Red Bull a day.
Oh my God.
I was abusing Adderall just to have the energy to get through the day. And I didn't know I was getting sick either. I was getting sick in my 20s. I didn't even know it. I was developing narcolepsy. And I was losing my hormones. I was getting a hormone insufficiency. So, yeah, by the time 2015 hit, I had really burned out. And that's when I went on medical leave and had to leave the entire career that I ever felt like I had known, the career that provided me with this 6-figure salary that people told me would make me happy. I had to leave all of it because I was on my way to just dying young. I was diagnosed with several rare autoimmune disorders and some neurological issues, and it sucked the energy right out of me. I was no longer able to function at the level I was in the past.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
And that's where I birthed my own business. Basically, I was in a situation where I was unemployable. And so I started my own life coaching practice after going back to school for it. But to put the perspective in 2015, April 10th, I started this business after going on medical leave, and I was broke. I had a negative bank account. I had an infant son. My wife was out of work, and basically had like this, $500,000 home built from scratch, and now I had no money in my pocket, and I'm starting a business, and I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's the shit right there, man.
That's the shit, man. That's the one you say, it hit the fan. But at least
It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. But at least you had your mind. You had your mind and your thought process in place to say, hey, this is not for me anymore. I can see what's deteriorating. Let me make a change.
I wouldn't have had my mind had I not done the work prior, though. Like,
Right.
I had 8 years, not 8 years, but it was like a few years of training prior, like 5 years. When I turned 30 to 35, like, I really started going to therapy. I started getting a coach. I started doing group work. I started doing a ton of self-discovery work that helped me understand some of the things that were going on with my body. Because by the time 2015 hit, my mental health also collapsed. So my mind wasn't always working in my favor either.
Yeah.
Because some of the illnesses I had really impacted that. So if it wasn't for the work that I did prior to that, man, I'd really be screwed. So I was very fortunate that, I battled depression, and I battle, mental health issues from time to time. And I'm an open book about that. But if it wasn't for putting in that work, man, I'd really be in a difficult situation. So I'm grateful for all of it.
Absolutely. Having that work, it sets the foundation, right? Because before you start anything, you got to have that foundation setting moment. And
right on.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Now, what are some of your motivations for the things that you're doing currently? And so we heard about the backstory on how, what really happened and what drove you to start your own coaching. It's because you saw what was destroying you, and it was literally like you had to take a medical leave. That's serious stuff, right? And a lot of people don't even get that chance because they're straight to the ER, or they are in even serious condition. They're facing heart attacks and stuff like that. So luckily you were able to avoid that, because how many cans of Red Bull did you say?
I don't know. I don't know if I could say I avoided it.
Okay.
I was drinking 15 cans of Red Bull a day with a strong amount of Adderall too.
Oh man.
Basically, up until I was 30, for a good few years, I was doing that while traveling 25 nights a month for my work. A very stressful job at that time. I had a mentor in my life that wasn't very healthy either. I had multiple breakdowns, man.
Oh wow.
Like, again, here I am in this suit, looking like I've got it all together. But there were plenty of days behind closed doors I was curled up in a ball just crying, like extreme anxiety. I didn't know what I'd gotten myself into, and it felt like I was trapped, man. I felt like I was alone. And I'm an athlete too. I was this strong dude that needed to have this vision of having it all together. And so I didn't. Only people who were super close to me really knew how broken I was at that time. But here's the thing, like, I didn't come out of that unscathed though either. Like, by the time I was 30, I had attempted suicide.
Wow.
Like, I was already a disaster. I thought taking a bottle of pills would just make it better. And I felt like I was unlovable to the world. Like, I'd become pretty dark. I'd strayed from my values quite a bit. So far that I just felt like I was ugly and I was unlovable. So, fortunately, I lived through that temporary situation, and it was only training for what was going to come next. And so that's why when people were like, man, how did you survive this building your business and getting sick? I'm like, I had training before. Like, I already been through some stuff that I thought I couldn't survive, and I survived that. So now I'm like, man, I can survive anything. Thanks to my faith that I have that's definitely been renewed in the people that I've surrounded myself with, man. So that's been the epic part of the journey. And like, I got diagnosed with stuff like Addison's disease, which was a rare autoimmune disorder where my body stopped making adrenaline. It stopped making stress producing hormones. So if I got stressed out, man, I didn't go into fight or flight. I'd go into shock, like adrenal crisis. So I was in the ER multiple times.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how to get a handle on this thing.
Wow.
My mental health, like when your hormones are out of whack, your emotions are out of whack too. My body stopped making testosterone for a while.
Wow.
Like just, my body was so mad at me, man, for abusing it, for pushing it too hard, and for stress. Because people underestimate stress. Stress was destroying me, and I was allowing it.
Yeah. So one thing that I noticed is that, you said you were an athlete. And
I am an athlete.
Right. So you are an athlete going to high school and, in college, you're definitely playing in those sports. So, because I'm just trying to think, okay, if a normal person takes so much, Adderall and Red Bull, it's going to destroy them. But you're having that muscular mass, you were able to sustain it for the short period of time that you were able to, right? So that probably.
So yeah, I was never using that stuff as an athlete in sports. That was the thing. I was never the fastest or strongest or natural athlete by any means. Any athletic ability I had to work my tail off for.
Right.
People from my past will tell you that, like, I was a mess of an athlete, like in my younger days. But like by the time high school football came around, by my junior year of high school, like things started to click. I lost a lot of weight. I hit the gym. I started exercising, changed my mindset. But one thing I knew was I could out hustle anybody. Like I could work harder than anybody. And so I did that, and I got praised for it. I was praised for my high energy. I was praised for my work ethic.
Nice.
And then beyond the sports, I was praised for my work ethic. Put your head down, get your stuff done. And do the work. Don't complain. And I would do that. But when my energy started to decrease and decline, like dramatically all of a sudden, I felt like, man, if I don't have energy, then what value do I have? I'm not that smart. I had this belief system. I'm not that smart. I struggle with my grades. I'm not that talented. So all I've got is my energy. I wasn't a great student, but I was a class president. I was a track captain. Like I was involved with everything, man. But like grade wise, like, no. So I had this limiting belief that I was stupid, that I just wasn't that smart. And energy was the only thing that I had. So when I started to lose it, I started to medicate. And I started to just take in all that Red Bull and Adderall to keep me going. And I only took the Adderall for a while because my doctor said, hey, you've got ADHD as an adult. They gave me Adderall and I liked it. Like, hey, this stuff gives you that great. Focus. Yeah, man, I can access my entire mind. Like, it was amazing until it wasn't. And I've been off that stuff for a long time now. But yeah, I mean, that was where it all birthed. Man. Like that was the beginning of all of that stuff. It's these limiting beliefs that I had just from a kid growing up, and that's where I have a long history of concussions too. Because in high school football, man, I used my head as a human battering ram. And I don't blame football and I don't blame my coaches. I loved my coaches. I loved the game. I made the choice. Like, and we didn't know back then. Like, we just thought like, hey, a concussion, you got to be knocked out, and it's like, I was never knocked out. I was too damn stubborn. Like I would fight and stand up and I would just keep going at it. But man, I took some serious hits to the head. I was a small guy playing football. So yeah, that's kind of where it all came from. But it's the entrepreneurial spirit though that always lived in me though. And I forgot about it. And that's the thing about this values thing that I talk about now is like, it's not about reinventing yourself. In 2015, I didn't reinvent myself. I rediscovered myself. I remembered all the crap that I used to love doing. Like as a kid, my first business was like when I was 8 years old, man. I was I was
There you
dealing
go.
baseball cards, like I would go to
Yeah.
baseball card shows with my dad, and I'd be selling and trading
Nice.
cards with 40-year-old men, So
Yeah.
I loved that kind of stuff. I had my own lawn mowing business by the time I was like, 12, and shoveling sidewalks in Maine and all that stuff. But somewhere along the line, someone gave me a ton of money to start working, and they gave me a promotion, and they gave me praise,
Yeah.
and I just ran with it.
That's amazing. That's an amazing journey, man. That's I give you props, man. That's amazing. It's freaking awesome. Having so what I did see, I mean, I'm not trying to break everything down, but so you're now your motivation behind your company is to make sure that other people are not making the same mistakes that you made them. Be able to reconnect with who they initially were and how they can use that energy to move forward in life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, the way I describe it is I help people live life aligned with their values, versus the values that have been defined by others. And as much as I'd like to say I'd like to prevent people from making the same mistakes, look, man, if people tried telling me, 20 years ago or 10 years, I don't know, I'm getting old now. I'm losing track of time, but like to slow down. Like people always used to say that. Slow down, man. You got to pace yourself. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, that makes sense. But what does that even look like? No one ever told me what slowing down even look like. It said slow down. I'm like, I would love to, but I have no idea. All I know was 0 and 100%. That was it. Like I didn't know what was in between. I'm the same way with everything in life. Hey, it's even in my car. It's the simplest thing. Like, oh, my window's either all the way up or all the way down. Like, it's either blazing hot in my car with the heat or freezing cold AC. I'm like, what are all these numbers in the middle? It doesn't make, so I've always been extreme, but no one ever told me what it was like to slow down. And so I had to learn that's how I tore my hamstring. Like I had the most intense hamstring tear because I was like exercising later in life, and they told me to do a 40-yard dash at 70%, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I just ran it at 110. Snapped my hamstring right in half, like a major second-degree tear. And so I'm like, oh man. So I've learned a lot of lessons from my extremes. Yeah. But now it's just like, look, I know people are going to do what they're going to do to learn their lessons, but I want them to know that I'm here as somebody who's walked that path. And when you're ready, I'll be there to help you find your way back. Not just find your way back, but like look at those things from the past that you need to rediscover and then apply them to now. Exactly. So many people say, man, I wish I could go back 10 years ago and be back, the way I was then. I'm like, you don't want to go backwards. You want to go forwards. Yeah, you don't want to go back. You remember how you used to think 10 years ago? Great. You want to take some of the things you loved back then, but bring them to now with the new knowledge that you have. So that's what I was doing. And your values, man, like when you know what your values are, bro, like you look at them like tanks. And like when one of those tanks is empty, you know what to put in it. You know what to fill it with. When you don't, you fill it with crap that doesn't belong there. And that's when we get in trouble with addiction. Yeah. We buy shit. We get addicted to things. We start overeating. Like we start losing it. So I had to rediscover what my tanks were and what my values were, and then align my life around that with how I do my job, the people I surround myself with. That was the truth. That's when I started integrating music back into my life, and faith and volunteering and even silly things like, trading cards and stuff like that. And like, man, I bought myself a box of like trading cards a while back just for the joy of opening cards again, because it was fun. And I shared that hobby with my son when he was like 3. We have a video of us opening up like Looney Tunes baseball cards together. It was a blast. Oh, nice. There were a box of cards I found from 1992, and here we are, like 2013 at the time, or it was 2016. Yeah, and he and I are opening up these cards together. It was a blast, man. Like, so all that stuff, you just have to have more things in your life besides just your career, or else you're gonna lose your shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, because you're trying to activate the part of your brain that gives you strength and stamina and motivation, And if you're substituting, enabling those parts of your brain using drugs and stuff like that, it's not going to go too long. But if you are using hobbies to activate those centers in your mind, then boom, man, you are unstoppable.
Yeah, man. It's like a long-lasting burning
Fantastic.
fuel, versus just like if you do something that's addiction based, you might get a buzz out of it right off the bat, but like what follows right after is complete shame, immediate shame. So it doesn't last at all. It's so bad. But when you fill that thing with something that belongs there, man, like you don't feel the shame afterwards. You feel the strength and you feel inspired. And the way I look at it is this: is like most people who come to me to work are usually people who have started to burn out in life, and they are high performers. They're people with delivered results, but the only thing that's pouring into their life is their career. And it's like their performance has determined their value. As long as I perform at a high level, my value's high. As long as I'm getting promotions and raises and praise, my performance is, my value is high. But that's a terrible investment in your life, because it feels great for a while. Like when you're on that honeymoon phase, or you're just on that like burn mode, grind mode, where you're just crushing it in your career, it's awesome. You feel untouchable. But then you have one bad week at work and all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to lose everything. Like you can't handle it because you got nothing else going on in your life. So when work goes bad, your boss is disappointed in one thing that you're doing. All of a sudden it's like, oh man, I'm going to lose everything. And it's those highs and lows of either I'm going to get promoted or I'm going to get fired. And eventually you can't maintain that stress. And so from an investment perspective, you wouldn't do that with like your retirement. You wouldn't put all your money into one investment and say, hey, as long as this investment goes well, I've got it made. But if it fails, like you've got nothing. So you wouldn't do that. You would diversify, your investments, your portfolio. You should do the same thing with your values in life. Work can be one of them, but it can't be everything. You got to have multiple streams of values pouring into your life. So if one gets cut off, you still got like 4 more pouring into you, at least keeping you going, so you can rebuild that 5th one again. And that's why I believe we got 3 to 5 core values in our life. And so when things start going off track, we just look at that list again and we remind ourselves which ones we got to pour back into. And it's simple stuff, man. Like I like to play music. So like I learned that I really love to perform. So I would perform an open mic night every Wednesday while I was living in Maine this past year. And that one night a month, like one night a week, man, that filled my tank so much, even though it was a late night, but just the opportunity to sing music and perform for people made it more creative. It made me more resourceful. It poured into my entire life. My work was better. I was more creative and fun with my kid. It was just, I made more friends. Like it was really cool. It was long lasting burning energy for me that just didn't fill one tank, but it poured into the rest of my life.
That's really powerful. I love that analogy, man. Love it. Wow. We've talked about some really good stuff. I love, all of the conversations, all of the different avenues, and to learning about how we should lead our life. I mean, they say, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Say, find the path that's in the middle. Right? Don't go too extreme. And they're all very true. And if you look outside, the 2 colors that are most present in our life or in the nature are those colors of the middle path, green and blues. And if you look at the rainbow, they fall right in the middle. So it's, you don't want to be running red and that's why I guess the color of red is that's the one extreme versus going super blue, violet or whatever is the other extreme. But yeah,
man. And that's and I still tend to swing in extremes occasionally every now and then, but like I don't live there.
Which is,
and for me, being in the middle also allows me to see opportunities that are not just in front of me, but in my peripheral now. My life used to be so tunnel visioned before, and I was like looking through the hole, basically a hole in a straw. I could see everything that was directly in front of me. But like when I started to let my values pour in, like nature being one of them, I started realizing, man, I need to be outside more. I love hiking. And like, you stand on a mountaintop and that's what your view and perspective of the world becomes now. It's like being on a mountaintop and you can see 360 degrees around you. And some of the greatest opportunities that we have in our lives live within our peripheral. The best shit's not right in front of us. That's just the obvious.
No.
The cool stuff is on the sides and the peripheral. And it's just, we got to be willing to see it. And so going after your purpose and pursuing and living a life aligned with your values doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's probably going to be harder. But it's so much better, man. It's so much more fun. If you want to live a safe life, you can, but that safe life could kill you. And my safe life almost killed me. It was miserable, And so I'd rather go down, man, doing the shit I love. And so that's how I feel about it. And that's why I'm taking risks today. And things don't always work out. Yeah. But man, I'm failing proudly. Like it's cool. Like I'm all right with failing and I'm all right with making a mess because that's why my business is now almost 5 years old and I've never looked back. I haven't worked for another person since, and I love it.
It's an amazing feeling, right?
Yeah. And my son, this is how he's 6 years old. His only known memories of me are as an entrepreneur. And my wife, the same. Like my wife is an entrepreneur also. Yeah. So anyone else out there who says you can't have two entrepreneurs in one household is full of it because we did it. Like we're doing that too. And it's not always easy, but man, is it super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's jump into the section where we have the questions on the hobbies, the hacks and hobbies questions. So one of the questions that I ask is, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into and never get a chance to get into that? And you had mentioned something really cool.
What did I mention in there? Because like I really struggled with that question because again, like my dad was really big into hobbies and collecting things. So like there literally wasn't a hobby out there, it felt like, that I didn't try at one point. So like, what did I put down?
So what you put down was whitewater rafting guide.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because I went whitewater rafting back in Colorado a couple of times. And I'm talking to the guide and how does one become a guide to this really awesome sport or awesome, pastime? It's like, yeah, man, you just got to do it.
So like here's the thing. I've done rafting probably 12 times. And I've done it in many different places and I've done everywhere up to category 5, rapids. I love it. Haven't done it in ages. And one of the things is like I have a muscle spasm disorder. So like sometimes my muscles cramp up. So right now being a guide would feel irresponsible. But the reason why I loved being a guide is also the same reason why I love coaching. Like the guide, kind of guides the boat, but he can't steer the whole thing by himself. He needs and it's crazy what guides do. They basically have a boat of like 6 total strangers that are amateurs at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, he's got to get them all to work together and recognize what they're capable of, overcome any limiting beliefs, overcome their fears of what's about to come ahead and work together. But like he can't do it by himself. He needs all these people and he's got to help. No. He can't, just tell them. He can't make them do it. He's got to like teach them. And so like it's a fascinating process and I love the whole journey of it. And by the end of it, it's amazing to see the transformation that everybody else has gone through in the boat,
Yeah.
And so that's why I dug that so much. And someday, either as a guide or a participant in the boat again, I can't wait to do coaching-based retreats, with whitewater rafting integrated into it, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of these retreats, when teams are coming, they all come in as individuals, but they all leave as team because they have to work together, and that's what it is, right? You can be one person giving 100% to what you love to do, But as soon as you integrate a team, you no longer have to do 100%. You get 500% of action coming through. Like that 1 hour now becomes 5 hours because now you have 4 additional people working on the same thing in that 1 hour.
And I remember
really
the guide
powerful.
really helping me because I would always sit up in I'd volunteer to sit right up front. You know, I was usually the stronger guy, and he would always pull me, the guy would always pull me aside like, hey man, like, I know you're strong and stuff, but like, you can't overpower it. Like, you got to work with everybody. Cause if you paddle harder than everybody else, it's going to throw us off. So like, you got to work with everyone. I was like, oh, okay. And so like, I learned a lot from those experiences. And the other thing too is like, you could die doing this. Like, and sometimes people forget that. Like this is dangerous, And so I really just dug the metaphor that it represented to me.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is a dangerous thing to do because just recently, friend from my community in California, they went whitewater rafting up north, and they lost two guys in the river, and they couldn't find them till later. Finally, they found their bodies.
Oh my gosh, man!
It's not fun. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh man, depended on what mood I was in at the moment. I think let's see. If I had to think about movies, I probably put down maybe Goonies because I do dig that movie quite a bit. What did I put down?
Yeah. It doesn't have. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I know.
But
I always wonder, but like Goonies
doesn't
is one
matter.
of them.
Yeah.
I love Goonies.
You said anything with Bill Murray. You said
anything with Bill Murray. Yes. What about Bob? Man, makes me laugh so much. I love Bill Murray to death. I also love Goonies because I love those coming to age stories. Love superhero movies, and I also love anything about music.
Yeah.
Like, love movies about music too. So like, I'm really, really big on that. I'm a big movie fan. I also love the TV show Arrested Development. It was a short-lived show. I liked the first 3 seasons.
Oh yeah.
It was a short-lived show, but it was brilliant beyond its time. And it was just the humor, and it was super smart humor. Man, it would just, the jokes would catch me off guard, and I would laugh hysterically for hours. So yeah, I dig that stuff.
Nice. When you mentioned anything with Bill Murray, and you mentioned What About Bob, long time ago, I remember watching the trailer for What About Bob, and I was like, all right, I gotta go watch this movie, but I never got around to watching this movie, and I kept thinking, like, what was that one movie I wanted to watch for so many years? So I'm gonna have to check that one out.
I love that movie, and it's funny because Richard Dreyfuss in that as a psychologist, and I'm a life coach. We're different, but like, it's just so funny to just. I love the whole storyline behind it. It's worth watching, but that movie cracks me up to this day, man. It's timeless humor.
Nice, yeah. All right, so this one is this is a new question that I've thrown in. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
What movie would I choose if I got to play a character in it? Oh man, do I love that? Two things come to mind. For some reason, the movie Any Given Sunday came up because I love football, and I would love to be a football player in that movie. That would be super cool. But outside of that, the other one was like Captain America. Like, I love a good Marvel movie. I love to be a superhero.
Oh yeah.
I still believe that I am one.
And you're wearing that Captain America t-shirt. Pretty good, man.
Yeah, thanks, bro. So to this day, I still like to believe I am one, and my body likes to remind me that I'm not. But still, it's the mindset. So yeah, that's what comes to mind in this moment.
Nice. And so, who would be your favorite superhero?
Yeah, it's still right in line with like Captain America and Captain America.
Right?
I gotta say, Iron Man is like, because like, dude, I love the swagger of a good Tony Stark.
Yeah.
So, and Robert Downey Jr. is probably one of my favorite actors also. Yeah.
Oh my God, he is so good. All right, last question. If you were a board game, what would
Monopoly,
it
be? Hands down. Yeah.
Nice. Fantastic, man. And so where can my audience find you?
You know, my website's never really been finished. It's actually kind of a point of like pride, because I built my entire business when I was broke using just free resources, you know, and my first free resource that I had was LinkedIn. So like social media was totally free. And so I built 70% of my business was built from LinkedIn. And I love that platform for storytelling, for sharing. I use it. I broke every single rule you could possibly, like unwritten rule on LinkedIn that you could. Like I talked about faith. I talked about like depression and everything on that platform when they said you couldn't. So I really do enjoy it. And so LinkedIn, you can find it under my name. You can't miss me. My headline's got a bajillion emojis in it because I like my emojis. But you can also find me on Instagram under Life Story Coaching. I love using Instagram too as a way of telling stories. And also like I'm always down for a great conversation. So you can email me at matt@lifestorycoaching.net. I love a good chat. Perfect. It's better to email me versus like message me on LinkedIn because I get a bajillion messages on LinkedIn and it's hard to keep up. But like I love a chance to talk. I mean, that's how we connected, right? Like I think I was on a road trip, and I probably posted one of my things like, "Hey, call me."
Yeah, exactly. You were on a road trip, and you're probably driving from Maine to Texas.
Yep, that's it.
Right? Yeah, and I was like, "Hey, this is awesome. I love it." And talk about road trips. I did a road trip, 10 hours driving up here to Michigan from Virginia.
Right on, man.
And that was fun.
That's cool, dude.
But I didn't have that daylight that you had to be able to.
I get it.
Night journey. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, this was really awesome connecting with you. I love your story and wish you best of luck. And we'll reconnect again and let's see how we can work together, man.
I look forward to it, bro. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on their website, hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.